most important films of the year.
Hey, you can't sit here. I'll sit wherever I goddamn like.
Steve McQueen is Rosa Parks.
Hey everybody, welcome to a Fireside show. Oh, oh God, why do you do this? Okay. Fireside chat with my buddy Greg Lang, the co-founder of Rivet. A super smart guy. You can usually catch us on Thursdays on World Blockchain Roundtable, hosted by Dragon Chain. I stream it on my channel sometimes, like when Lisa streams it on her channel whenever she bothers to show up. She's gonna get mad at me or saying, but she's mad at me all the time. She told me the other day, she said, my God, some days I just want to arm wrestle you. And I was like, why? You'll just beat me. I know. It's fine. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court and the Chevron decision. One of the big reasons, because Greg used to be a big-time lawyer.
I wouldn't say big time.
Like I said, Greg is he's a humble fellow, as all of the people usually that we on the World Blockchain Roundtable are, but they're all super, super smart. I'm the dumb, eye candy there. But you should check it out. It's definitely more tech oriented. But we do talk about like current events, and the nice compliment that people give me is like, you explain things that the average guy can understand. So it's good. Everyone should check it out. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, I don't get up usually before because I'm up I have trouble sleeping. So for me to get up at 9, literally there's like 9 or 10 alarms that get me up, and my kids are all pissed off because they're all going off for like 45 minutes. And I make it there usually at 10:02 or something. All right. So first, why don't you explain what the Chevron decision was?
Okay.
And then what your take on it is.
So basically the key to understanding what Chevron is, and this was a decision that happened in 1984, I believe. Somewhere thereabouts, 84, 85, 83, that range, around the time I was born. And well, the original dispute that caused it was a new EPA rule that they were, or not really a new rule, but rather a new interpretation of the rule, where they were trying to make it so that the part of the factory that had to be compliant with pollutant requirements wasn't the whole factory, but actually each individual component of the factory. So they're trying to go in and say, like, this machine isn't compliant, that machine isn't compliant, that machine isn't compliant. And it doesn't matter what comes out the smokestack. We don't care if your smokestack's compliant. What we want is you to make every single piece of your line function according to our rule. And Chevron, with their refining operations, said no, right? We can't do this. So they battled this all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came out on the side of the government. And what they said was, basically, if there's an ambiguity in the law, that the administrative agency's interpretation of it will be binding on the court, which was really astounding because lower court decisions not binding on higher courts. There's no real precedential weight to even courts that are on the same level. But the new rule said administrative agency says it, then you're bound.
But honestly, what defines ambiguity?
That's a tough question.
Very subjective, because to one person who's completely wrong, the Second Amendment says only the military can have guns, and to other people it means everyone has the right to bear arms and defend themselves.
This question has always been a big problem with the Chevron doctrine, right? Like, what's ambiguous? What's ambiguous is open to interpretation, whether or not they're looking at a particular section of the law and saying, hey, this section can be read in multiple ways. That could be ambiguous. But what about if the law doesn't say anything?
Let me ask you this.
If there's nothing in there, is it ambiguous?
Let me ask you this real quick. Part of how the laws are supposed to be written, how I had a fireside chat with Johnny B a couple weeks ago, and I knew as soon as I said it, I shouldn't have said it, but I do think that it's a possibility that our founding fathers were not of this world because they're so much smarter than we are today. Back then, it's like unbelievable how revolutionary, I guess unintended, everything was back then. The whole idea of America was, or now just the world, most of the world can see it that it's, it's still very, very different. But we think it's like everywhere, it's pretty much the same. And it was so radical. I said, man, it's almost like they're, alien. He goes, you think the founding fathers are aliens? I was like, I didn't say that. But laws are supposed to be plainly written. And the government sucks. Everyone agrees to that. And right before they start fighting with each other about the tiniest nuance of whatever color or animal they back. Didn't the Chevron doctrine kind of incentivize bad behavior in writing laws to create ambiguity, to give the government or agents, it's not the people, more control because of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a great point because, like, Scalia, for example, came out originally in favor of the Chevron doctrine until he saw for 10 years what it was doing. And, after a decade of it, it became obvious that what was really happening was that Congress was writing intentionally ambiguous laws that were shoving controversial actions they wanted to take into the ambit of the administrative agencies so that they could, with no accountability, depend on Chevron to make their policy positions happen. And this is how the government started being run, basically, after Chevron.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hate new words that lessen what something is. I hate the term fake news because before it was a lie, and it seems almost like licensed to do it. It's like fake news. No, that was a lie, or it was liable in print, or it was its own thing, but it was a lie. Date rape. It hits the ear differently, and overreach. It's just you broke the law. You broke the unconstitutional. You know what I mean? That was overreach. It's literally like we interpreted it differently. And I made the point with Lisa, if you're in the parking lot and you see someone come out of the store and a cop takes out his gun and just shoots the guy and kills him, you would think that's murder. But if the guy came out of the store and had a gun and pointed it at the cop and the cop shot him, that's completely legal. So it's literally like that's being, what's the word? It's kind of being silly a little bit, but that is, it was an overreach of my authority. No, it was just murder. But he's legally allowed to, even if it's not, you don't have to make sure it's a real gun. You don't have to make sure if he thinks he's in danger, you're a cop. Boom.
Yep.
So they can. It's like they just call it overreach, and it's fine.
Well, I mean, and that's where like qualified immunity comes into it, and it gets messy. Very similar.
Qualified immunity is a whole different thing, and then we could do a whole show on qualified immunity and the scam of what Congress has, and how they have sovereign immunity, which
goes beyond.
There's like no. Same with a lot of federal agents.
Yeah.
They could get caught, and they can't get in trouble. The person that they tried to get in trouble will not get in trouble, but nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, but I watched the video. This guy was dating this woman, or no, married to him or dating, whichever. They broke up. She started going out with the federal agent. He went and planted drugs in the guy's car, and then arrested the guy, and he's going to jail. But then, like a TGI Fridays or something had security footage that showed the guy breaking into his car, putting the drugs in the car. So, but nothing happened to the agent because he had the immunity for it. It's not in the guy didn't have to go to jail, but he still, had to go to court and all that happened.
Right.
So now you talk about the Supreme Court decision, and
Yeah. Okay. So Loper Bright Industries, you know what they do? I mean, you're familiar a bit with it. For people who don't, Loper Bright Industries is a fishing boat. And these guys, they go out and they fish, and they're required under environmental law to have oversight on them to make sure that they don't overfish, right? Now, the ambiguity in the law was, how's this done? Who takes care of this? Well, the law specifically says that they're supposed to have a federal monitor on the boat, but it doesn't say who's supposed to pay for that. And so the EPA decided that Loper Bright Industries was to pay for their own monitor, right? That's pretty nuts when you think about it. Like the idea that you have to have a federal monitor and that you have to pay their salary. Not only are they taking up space on your boat so that you can't put more fish on, or that you can't have useful employees on board, right? You not only have to have this person on your boat, you have to pay for them. And it was essentially bankrupting this company. They weren't going to be able to keep doing what they were doing because they would have had to pay for this employee who wasn't pulling their weight for anything other than something that they allegedly required to do by law. Well, the Supreme Court came out and said, no, actually, this quote, Chevron doctrine has been doing injustice for the last, ever since it was passed. And now we're going to overturn it, because this idea that these fishermen are supposed to bring an on board and pay a federal agent to watch them, make sure that they do the right things, was just one example of the kind of injustice the law does. And so they overturned it. And the amazing thing about this is sort of, so when you think about it in terms of what doesn't get brought to court, right? Let's say for a fact that Chevron doctrine exists. Hi. and you want to challenge something that's happening to you because the government's doing it, but this exists and your lawyer knows it exists, and you say, hey, is there anything we can do? One thing they're not going to do is say, hey, let's challenge the framework. Let's challenge whether or not this entire concept of regulation is constitutional. They won't do it. That's why when people started battling, the way that the SEC first came after crypto wasn't to come after crypto tokens, it was to come after exchanges, right? Mm-hmm. They said these are unregistered, unlicensed exchanges. Now, what they weren't saying is that they weren't providing a path for any of these exchanges to, so-called exchanges, to register, but they were defining this new thing as an exchange and running from there. And guess what didn't happen? None of these exchanges that got crosshaired by the SEC said, well, no, actually, this isn't something that you have authority to regulate. That was not an argument that was made. And the reason was Chevron.
And I think something that the great gingivitis outbreak taught us, taught me at least, is that when it comes to evil, or whatever the government wants to do, since this is started as a crypto channel, because they can print money, they can tie stuff up, they can get done what they want to get done. It eventually goes to court, but at best we're looking at 3 months. Usually 6 months, could be a year. That
more like a year.
Yeah. And And then the Supreme Court says, "Oh, that you can't do that; it's unconstitutional." I think there should be some kind of repercussions for that. Like, what percentage of Congress
I agree.
is former lawyers?
Uh,
80%?
Surprisingly large amount.
Yeah. And forget about the fact that a lot of them are constitutional lawyers, but they have aides, they have experts. Like they know it's unconstitutional. It's kind of like, I think, like if a cop breaks the law, you can't claim ignorance. I got pulled over once for I was there was a train going by, and the things were down. This cop was coming out of the dollar store, and the train passed. The things were going up. I went over. He turned around and pulled me over. You know why he pulled me over? I was like, I made a joke. I'm like, you thought I was cute, and you were like, you're gay. He's like, no. He said, you didn't wait until the arm was completely upright before you.
Oh God.
And I said, yeah. I said, is that a law? And he said, yes, it is. I said, oh, well then, I'm sorry. I had no idea. And he let me go with that, with a warning and all, but it was like, I didn't know,
Well, I had a similar thing happen to me, man, when I was in college, actually, because I had found out that there was this bar that was on the other side of town that served underage, right? Like I was 19 and I wanted to go have a drink. So we headed over to this bar and we saw that the police were already out front. So we pulled away, drove off, and then right around the corner, like I was flipping open my old, it was like I forgot the brand, but it was one of those T-Mobile back when they were voice stream phones. Mm-hmm. You hit this little button, the flap would flip open. It was about the closest thing to the Matrix phone I could get at the time, which is what I was going for. So like I wanted it. Well, the button on that thing would break all the time. So I'd hit the button and it would click and I'd be like, fuck, now I can't close my phone. Mm-hmm. So I got in the back to try to get a pencil out. And this was like a block away from that bar. And it was about that time that they just apparently started following me. And as I was driving into downtown of my college town, I was about to turn left. But because I was nervous because I was being followed, pulled into this left turn lane that was blocked entirely by construction on the left. So I pulled out. Lights go on. They pull me over. As it turns out, pulling out of a left turn lane is a violation of the law. So even if you can't turn left.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like they don't teach you in driver's ed. They don't teach you, stopping too long at a stop sign is against the law.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's going to depend on your state too, but.
Yeah, I guess. But in Texas, if you stop it's like more than 5 seconds. It's not even that long. But a couple months ago, me and this girl went and got a coffee and something, and went to the park. And I went and parked, and it was like 9:30 or something. And we're hanging out, talking, blah blah blah. And this cop pulls up, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I have this coffee, and what do you want?" I was kind of pissed, And he's like, "Well, you're trespassing." I said, "In the park that I pay for? This is like a block from my house. It's the city park." I was like, "This is my park. I pay for this with my taxes. What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, it's closed. It closes at 9:30. And I was like, "Are you serious?" And the girl's like, Yeah, it does close at 9:30. I knew that. And I said, "That's dumb." Yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm not trying to be a jerk to you or anything. It's thank you for telling me. Now I know, but do you think that's dumb? Because I think that's dumb. It didn't used to be that way. I used to come here like all the time when I was a kid. This is where only place you can go to make out. It was the city park.
Well, I mean, and I think we've seen especially over the last 20 years, kind of this erosion. Like I remember when I graduated high school, it was like, it started to blow my mind how much the generations right under mine started to be so like compliant and afraid of rule breaking. You know, like
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing when I was in high school. It was like, what could you
You
get
know,
away with?
is that even illegal, or is that even
Mhm.
legal? But no, it just, like you didn't question unless it was like morally wrong. But just to,
Right.
is that even legal? Yeah, of course it
Right.
is.
I mean, I'm sure they put the policy in place for like some park somewhere where they're having drug problems, you know,
Mhm.
but they apply to the whole state, and that's like uh, just the sort of the slow march of authoritarianism creeping into our lives, and we've seen it just over time.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was saying, during the great gingivitis outbreak, it's like you have to be compliant, or else here,
Right.
right, take your job. The military, they kick people out of the military, man, that were
Hmm.
serving
Oh yeah.
the country, and now they're like, oh, please come back. We don't have a lot of soldiers, and we want to have a lot of wars. And but it took. I mean, like the damage is done. You know,
Hmm.
it
All
was like
right.
what, 3 months or 4 months, and then the Supreme Court's like, no, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And now
I mean,
it's so
and
weird that things are getting back to normal. I called my and this hasn't been this way for years, pharmacy, and because I got a text, I had 2 prescriptions ready. I was like, yeah, what are the
mhm.
prescriptions? Oh, can't tell you that. I was like, why?
Really?
HIPAA. And I
Huh.
didn't even mean to say it. It was just a reflex. I said, oh, we care about HIPAA now. And I didn't even say it. It was just a reflex. It was
Oh,
so, I
it's a
couldn't.
fair point, though.
Yeah, and I did once. I said, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be a smartass. That I didn't even know that I was going to say that. I said, but like a while back, I had actual McDonald's employees asking me my medical information. So it's just very odd now that you won't tell me what my own prescriptions are that are ready.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, especially when they were probably queried directly for the information about people's choices, whether or not they wanted to take the you know uh, I don't know, the banana drink they were offering everyone.
yeah. Okay. So, and this overreach has happened a lot with the ATF. The ATF, I think, and I've been thinking that they're going to. It's like keep giving them rope, and they're going to hang themselves.
Hmm.
They also hang a lot of Americans, but and this is where I really learned how much the government's just theater, and I got so sick of it. I'm not as jaded as Joe is, but I'm getting there. And when I show
Yeah.
you this, which is video I could not upload, so we're gonna have to watch it. I got it queued up. It's um, if you don't know that this has happened, you are going to freak out, and then I want to get your take on it. So now the Supreme Court basically said what has changed now about the overreach.
Well, Chevron's been overruled, and while they didn't say quite what it means because it's so far-reaching that if they had, it would have taken innumerable hundreds of thousands of more pages, like thousands of more pages easily, to just list all the things that are going to be impacted, right?
Mhm.
But essentially, what we've got is rollback of Chevron all the way. It means everything that's ever happened, all the precedent ever related to it, anything challenged going forward, not necessarily all the decisions that were made under it going back to the past, because they preserved those. They said, we're not overruling every decision we ever made based on it, but going forward, it will not apply, right? So what that means is the agency is a litigant, and they get to come into the court and they get to make their best legal argument, and then the judges decide the law. Always how it's supposed to be, really.
Yeah, Warriors
Um,
32. The ATF is basically, they've lost a lot of authority because of Chevron, but they had like 3 cases before the Supreme Court that were their overreach, and they were all ruled against them. Like the
mhm.
bump stock saying that it was a machine. They said
Yep,
this
and the pistol brace and all that.
pistol brace, the bump stock, and there's another one, but
Mhm.
basically they're going to make it to where like they're going to lose all authority.
It was raw 3D printed materials being I think. Wasn't that it?
No,
like a-
no. There was some. Well, first off, they said that a piece of plastic is a machine gun. Not that it can change something to a machine gun, or that it creates a machine gun, but that it is a machine gun. And then
It was a great advertisement for the Glock switch.
And then the pistol brace thing was just, I mean, it was moronic. But the whatever gave them like all this authority for so many laws to go into place is about to be thrown out, and they're about to lose. It's like
Everything that's litigated going forward now is just whoever has the best argument.
Yeah, but also then whoever has the most money, which I think we know where that's headed as far as the dollars going.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to play this video.
Okay.
Because there's the Chevron thing happened, and there is it's not a law. If there's a policy, and it's just like when you go to a store when you want to return something or anywhere restaurant and you're like, oh, we can't do that. I'm sorry. Why not? It's like, oh, it's our policy. So you can do it. You're just not going to do it. It's not a law,
Right.
Like, no, we can't. It's a policy. It's just a policy. So the VA had this policy, which they made a law, where if you need any kind of help financially, that you're not allowed to have a gun. You lose your Second Amendment rights.
Right.
If you need to get any kind of like financial stuff for like, which my stepdad was, I mean, money wise, my mother handled everything when she was gone. He needed his brother or someone to, handle that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think he should be able to, defend himself or go hunting or whatever. So anyway, Congress is passing a law that is specifically going to give those veterans the right to bear arms. And the VA said, "Oh, we're not going to obey the law." Did you hear about that?
Go figure. I haven't heard it specifically, but it doesn't surprise me.
It is surprising how blatant it is. So I wanted to show this to you and get your take on this. And I had downloaded a video, but I can't get it to upload, so you're gonna have to watch it on this guy's channel. Let me know if you can hear. Am I sharing it? Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. It's not playing yet.
Okay. All right. Ready to go.
Out there to fit your guys' needs.
Yep, okay.
VA's testimony stated that if the Veterans Second Amendment Restoration Act is signed into law, and this is even more troubling, the VA could not comply because the VA states the Department of Justice, an executive branch agency, affirmed VA's interpretation of the Brady Act. So, is it the VA's position that the VA will not comply with an act of Congress based on another agency's interpretation of the law?
So the VA has always works to comply with all laws. We complied with the Brady Handgun Act when it was in fact the law.
So again, is the VA's position, because based on the statement, they could not comply with the Restoration Act, the Veterans Second Amendment Restoration Act, is it your position that you will not comply with an act of law passed by Congress?
Yes, sir. I guess based off of what you have in testimony, yes, sir.
That you would not comply?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad everybody hears that on the record, that the VA is going to refuse to comply with, regardless of what we actually pass here, including questions that Representative Self was just asking in view of the Chevron being passed. Mr. Chair, I have just a couple more questions, but I think that Mr. Friel has incriminated himself and the VA that they're going to have complete disregard for what we're going to do anyway. So
Mr. Friel, you're very well aware of how you just answered the congressman's question, correct? As I said, it's in our testimony that we would have trouble complying with that law. As I said, Mr. Friel, you're very well aware of how you answered the congressman's question. Yes, sir.
You guys heard that right. That is a representative from the
He's
Department
literally-
of Veterans Affairs, the VA.
It's literally
Yep.
like, no, because I'm surprised. Usually they're like, thanks for asking that question, Congressman. What a great question.
Yeah,
Man,
the
that
thing,
needs to be asked. And I tell you, you're so great. And I love puppies. Thank you. And I get so frustrated watching it because it's like, yes or no. Well, what a great question. And then they're like, my favorite color is whatever. They never answer it. He's like,
yeah,
you're not answering my question. And this dude just like, yeah, we're not gonna. Not,
that actually kind of was the surprising part to me about it, was that he
Yeah.
actually said so overtly.
yeah.
The fact that they intended to do it that way, not so surprising.
And but see, here's what I'm find horrifying. And you know me, and you know what I've been saying for the past 3 years. The Supreme Court is the only thing holding the country together.
Yeah.
Because if not, the government, well, we've seen it, the government that does unconstitutional shit all the time. And then they have to get checked. And, now they're getting pissed and they're like, we want to stack the court, or they want to kill the Supreme Court. Once the Supreme Court's gone, or if there's anything that happens to it, then the country is over. There's no voting any people in. You can't, it's done. But the idea that their legal ground that they stand on is, the Department of Justice, or these people, they said that it's okay. So we're like, it's such an us versus them that they're like, that's all we need. We'll stand up to the Supreme Court, and we don't have to do it. And you can say I'm hypocritical because I'm from Texas, and Texas was not going to comply with but Texas basically said the law is these people can't come through here. We're going to uphold the law, and the administration said no, we don't want to uphold that law. We want to have a gray area. We want people to come in. And so Texas had that. It's an existing law that we want to enforce. So there's a difference there than just saying we don't care what the Supreme Court says. And that's what blew me away.
So to me, this is the interesting thing. And this is probably why so many people are afraid of Donald Trump being reelected in the federal deep state, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Most people don't remember Executive Order 13957. In that order, that basically only existed in force from October 21st, 2020 until May 19th, 2021, when Biden rescinded it. It created a special classification in the federal accepted service called Schedule F. And what it did was to take anybody who worked at an agency in the, quote, accepted service, right? The accepted service being all the employees in the federal government who are not subject to the president's hiring and firing authority, right? Because political appointees only were subject to presidential hiring and firing. So they would make some political appointees that would go be allegedly in charge of these permanent employee-based agencies. And those permanent employees would either follow the rules or not, depending on what they wanted to do. But the president couldn't fire them, and the president's appointees couldn't fire them. Schedule F changed that. Schedule F said, if you are in a policy adjacent role, or if you make policy, or if you comment on policy, or if you have to persuade on policy, then you're subject to the Schedule F classification, which takes away the protections that the accepted service normally gives you, making them hireable and fireable by the president and by their appointees. They're terrified of that coming back in force.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing about that is the law that made the accepted service accepted to begin with didn't come into force until after James Garfield got assassinated by a disgruntled former federal employee. So they kind of bowed to terrorism right there and created a law that made it so that federal agencies were subject to no authority, basically. And that's probably if you wanted to talk about the next thing after Chevron that needs to go, this Schedule F solves a lot of those problems.
I think that, and Joe always talks about it. The whole idea with government bureaucracy is they want to make it bigger, to get more power, to get more money, to so on and so on. It's like this. It's the blob. It just wants to keep eating and growing, and then it gets bigger and bigger and destroys more stuff.
Mhm.
I'm so disappointed that Vivek is not. It's a big letdown. It seems.
Yeah.
Like I thought we might get, and now we got the guy from. You ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, Hillbilly Elegy.
Good Old Fashioned Orgy. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
That weird guy looks like that guy Tucker and whatever against the Dead. That he looks just like that dude. I didn't know. I don't really know him. Didn't know much about him. It looks like kind of classic Trump. Just kind of this dude's gonna be in the background. It's not. Vivek would have been the white. I said the stuff you said.
Force. No, he could be better positioned in another role, right? Like if you really wanted to put him in a position of power where he could make some difference, a cabinet position different from the vice president might be appropriate for him. So I'm not entirely sure that this isn't a better move.
I don't know. We'll see, because he wants the things he wants to cut, things he wants to shut down, and people are like, "Oh my God, we can't have the CIA." If you ever watched Nixon, the interviews he gave, the stuff he says is really mind blowing. I was, what was I? I was not born yet, but I've been watching it. He's like, I really don't think the CIA is worth having around. I don't think the intelligence community. He goes, but I really didn't think that the military is good for a lot of the stuff that it's good for. It's really weird. A lot of the things that because when I think of Nixon, I'm like total traitor, taking us off the gold standard, did all the things that were terrible. So I never even listened to him. And I've seen these clips of him saying these things that are like, whoa.
Well, he was obviously a deep state favorite, right? Because they basically rolled him right back in as soon as Kennedy was done and his VP was done.
But
so
this is the thing is the VA. Like and Vivek was talking about getting rid of the CIA. You can, there didn't used to be an ATF. It was just it was an office in the IRS, and it was called because firearms wasn't even there.
It was originally designed to enforce a tax act, right?
Yeah, it was for drinks, for drinking, for tobacco. It was like ATT or something. And then,
it was like an Anslinger type of org, right? Wasn't it? Wasn't Anslinger basically behind most of it?
And it was like a little. It was with the IRS. It was mainly for taxation. But there's so many.
It was an early instance of lawfare via the IRS, I would say, but
we need spies. Yes, okay, fine, but we don't need. What do we have? 17 or 18 intelligence agencies, not 3-letter agencies. Not when you're not all the others. Just intelligence. We don't. There's so many things that you could shut down. You could have just Department of Homeland Security. You don't need FBI.
I would challenge the notion that we even need them, right? What have they done for us other than cause the Middle East to erupt into permanent instability that causes all this blowback?
Tons of terrible things, but you're not going to, as people, we got to have spies. We got to spy on those people. Okay, I'll give it to you. Fine. I don't think we really need it, but but
if we did, we don't even employ the spies, right? The CIA handles spies because spies exist in other governments.
If you shut down the VA, you don't. If we didn't have the VA, what would we do? All the veterans, my dad was in the Army. He retired. There's the Department of Army finding DFAS. It's all set up. You just go from getting your check from the same place to it's just going to get cut when you retire to what your retirement would be. There's, you don't have to go to a VA hospital. You just go to the military hospital. All this infrastructure, it's already there. So just you don't need bigger government. You just need to have the existing
Well, and in
infrastructure.
reality, if like the market still managed medicine, like one of the reasons we have such insane price like problems with medicine, I believe, is because we've got government negotiating prices, right? Like they're making side deals with the pharma companies and with all the care providers, and they have all these weird certificate of need laws. They limit the number of doctors that get created. If we actually ran our medical system in a free market system, would you need anything special for veterans if it was so affordable that anybody could afford it? No.
No. Also, just and that's what I get really pissed off, because I believe in free market 100%.
Mm.
But, and I hate when people do that, but there's so many times when I'm like, oh, but this socialism needs to be in place, and it doesn't, because we don't have a free market. If we had a free market, then we wouldn't need it. You remember when I was in the hospital for like a couple months last year? Matter of fact, because I was in for my birthday last year. So the doctor, and I didn't understand it, but every day he was like giving me a new prescription for something, and I was like, "Why are you?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then when I got the bill, I understood, because my pharmacy bill was $50,000, and but then my labs was $50,000, and then the hotel, the hospital stay was $50,000. So
not a very nice hotel either.
No, but I was like, because he's like, oh, we need to check this your INR. I check it once a month, right? Because I'm on a blood thinner medication, and he's like, we need to check it every day, and I have trouble sleeping, and they came in and checked it at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, so right in the middle of your primary sleep time.
No, I would fall asleep like at 3. So it was, yeah, I would have trouble going to sleep. I'd finally fall asleep, and then I'd wake up to them jabbing me, and they didn't need to test it every day, but that was lab work that they charged for, that they made money from, and it just is.
Well, I mean, and you double up that with the precautionary principle, right? The idea that we have to look for worst case scenarios and treat them as if they're the only scenario that's going to play out. That it despoils medicine. It makes it so that they do so much stuff just because they're afraid something bad might happen.
Mm. And also he's giving me, all these new medications, and I'm not joking. I hadn't watched regular TV for years. Even cable I hadn't really watched, just because we have all the streaming stuff.
All right.
So I had to watch TV because it's all is there. Like my phone was charging.
That's awful.
Yeah, I had no idea, dude. It's just fast food, pharmacy, fast food, pharmacy, fast, and there's so many commercials. And he would come in and prescribe me the stuff that I saw on TV. And they're like, I'm going to put you on Jardians. I was like,
Jesus.
oh, that's the heavyset chick who dances, and and I'm like, I don't really need it. I don't take insulin, but they give it as soon as I go in the hospital, like shooting me with insulin. But I get out of the hospital and I go, here, I got all these prescriptions now I got to get. I go to pick them up, and it was $2,000.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, well, this Jardians is, I think it was like $800.
Go figure.
And they're like, oh, it's a new drug, just came out like 2 months ago. And I said, I'm not paying $800 for something that I don't really even need. And then they go, oh, well, you can go to their website and get a coupon, and then it's like $4 or $5 or something. And I'm like, why is it $5 if you can get a coupon? I mean, it's not like 20% off. It's $800.
Because the coupons are, and this is actually a fun thing to think about. Anytime you're getting a coupon-based discount, remember that the thing that you're trading in exchange for the coupon is trackable information.
Mm-hmm.
And they're under obligation by the FDA to track, right? To see follow-up wise after the medicine is released, if it's being, or if it's continuing to be both safe and effective, right? So they have to keep this data.
Mm-hmm.
And they get that data in large part by offering these coupons. It's a big racket.
Yeah, it's definitely a racket. Plus, it's just the amount, how much cheaper it is in other countries, how much cheaper the same drug is.
Oh yeah, we're subsidizing the world, man.
It's such a scam. It's such a racket. I think, and Lisa disagrees with me, but I think that's what could make society break down. That could be what makes people in Europe pick up their hammers and their pitchforks. I think that's what could make people in the U.S. pick up their guns. If the pharmaceutical industry is exposed, and it's exposed, but literally, it'll take you 10 minutes of going down a rabbit hole. There's been like 4 or 5 doctors and scientists that have come forth and said, "Hey, we have found the cure for cancer," and all of them died. All of them died right after, and all of them, their homes and their laboratories burnt down. It's like the Clinton body list.
Well, similar to anybody who discovers like some amazing way to create energy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, people are talking about that guy that made the car that could run off fumes, and it was like 2 gallons of gas. You know,
put water in it.
That was a real thing. You know,
yeah.
Well, people conspiracy nuts talked about it. It's like, no, it was, you know,
just wait until fun one actually along those lines. I don't know if anybody's been killed over it yet, but I don't imagine it being super popular with people who like the idea of degrowth and destroying the American way of life by destroying its standard of living. But do you know the hydraulic fracturing process, what they call fracking, is actually creates byproduct rare earth metals in such a quantity that it would outsupply anything that China has in the ground?
No, I did not know.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
I did find out that that when we're energy independent, that was a scam. That we can't use our oil because we don't have refineries. Because you're talking about like the Chevron thing with the EPA and all that.
Yeah,
we don't have refineries that can refine our own oil.
Right. We have to send it across the ocean and bring it back.
Or we sell it to other countries that can use it and can
right, and then we buy back from them.
And we buy back. Yeah, we buy. So it's odd. I mean, we're technically getting more oil out of the ground and then we're selling it to other people, but it's not like we can, Then
right, we can't supply chain. We can't run the supply chain from end to end here.
Yeah, it's like the pharmaceutical industry. Like 90% or 95% of our antibiotics come from overseas, mainly China.
Oh, right.
Well,
that's because all the major biochem labs that do the commercial level fabrication, the place where you can, mass production of machines that do acid base extractions and those sorts of things in assembly line style. And just speaking from experience, because I played around like self-educating on how to do some of those things a while back. I won't go into too many details because I'm not sure if I was entirely compliant with federal law and all that stuff. But it's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to do right. The fact that there are places overseas that can do it suggests that there are good paying jobs probably for regular people doing it. But at the same time, like, we don't have the capacity here. It's amazing.
But like I was saying, I think if people found out that there's been multiple cures for cancer, and they know everyone has family members that have died and friends.
Right. Well, it's just before
knew for sure, and it's confirmed because the government told you. That would that would do it. That would push people over the edge. But essentially, a parent who lost a kid,
Mhm.
there's no way, man. I think that's the one thing that would really do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would hope, but at the same time, the way that communications are suppressed these days, it could already happen thousands of times over. And there could be people just enough mad about it to do something about it. They just can't talk to each other.
Yeah. One of the scary things, and we've talked about this on World Blockchain Roundtable, and it still was like this. It was like a wow moment of my life when Roger Ver said it to me, and it was just nonchalant, and I was floored.
Mhm.
It was like, well, we're just talking, and he's like, well, really, true history hasn't ever been, true human history hasn't been around until blockchain was created, because we never had the ability to have an immutable,
Right.
record of it.
And even then, like what we've got now are verifiable facts, right? And the problem that we still have is like what is history? History isn't a sequence of facts. It's related to a sequence of facts. It's a sequence of facts that are arrayed in a way that tells a story. And unfortunately, you can still tell multiple stories with blockchains, right? Like, so how we get to a place where the story that we tell is emergent from fact is still a challenge to solve, I think.
And it's so much worse. We used to say, the victors write the history, and that is true to a point. But looking at how easy it is to rewrite history, to just change a few things, it didn't take any time. Because I mean, I'm old, but I've seen it in my lifetime where like just a generation, and it's people think crazy shit happened that didn't happen. Forget about the Mandela effect. That's a whole nother thing.
Right. Gulf of Tonkin is an interesting thing that happened that didn't happen.
There's so much. And I thought it was a big deal. I did the True Tuesday on the Mandela effect, because I think it does. I think we have like
I
junk
still
chaos.
remember the Berenstein Bears. I do. I swear to God.
Don't, but that, yeah. See, that Lisa was talking about, but that's just a pronunciation. Like,
Well, no, it was an EI versus an AI. I remember the E.
oh, it was a spelling difference. I thought you were talking about
Mhm.
just the pronunciation. The Berenstein. Okay.
It was apparently AIN according to the current reality bubble we live in.
But now, like things are being proved wrong. So to me, it's like, how do you answer that? Like the fruit of the loom thing. You know that one?
Yeah.
The cornucopia, and they said,
Right.
we've never had a cornucopia. The company put out like a statement and had their logo, but then people found stuff with the cornucopia. And I remember people in chat were like, I remember there was a cornucopia guy. And I was like, I remember something. And I remember that guy had a cornucopia on his head.
Another good one.
What?
Do you remember the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s Burger King chicken tenders?
Yeah.
They're about like, they were kind of like oblong shaped. They're about like the length of your thumb if you count your.
They were real chicken, not.
And they had this like really incredible spice. They claim to this day that those never existed, even though there are commercials showing them announcing them that you can still find on YouTube.
And it was like made of real chicken, and that's why it was long and weird looking, and it wasn't like a pup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was They were like so much better than chicken nuggets because they were real
Right,
chicken.
and they had that delicious spice like that they never have reproduced.
Yeah, and remember the chicken sandwiches? They had the French sandwich, which was like a cordon bleu. And someone told me they never had the French. There's no French sandwich. Like, no, it was Swiss cheese, ham, mustard on the cheese. And they were like, no. They had the Italian with the spaghetti sauce and mozzarella. And they had another one, and people were arguing with me about that. But it is weird that like people can prove it now. And it's like, no, we found this. I told
Mhm.
Lisa, it's like, imagine if you're talking to someone, they're like, hey, you remember that where's the beef commercial with that lady for McDonald's? And you're like, no, it was Wendy's. No, it was McDonald's.
Yeah, right. No, it was there's so much stuff too that that makes you wonder. How familiar are you with the quantum blockchain project, QTUM?
Cutum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made the randonauts thing.
They weren't they originally like a privacy chain?
Yeah. But
Okay.
they did the Randonauts app where they were basically using the blockchain technology that they were using to create like sources of quantum randomness. And the idea behind the game is you look for a point on a map while you're focusing on some kind of intent. And the original theory was that you created an alternate reality when you went on the trip looking for what you thought up.
Mm-hmm.
And that by going down that reality tunnel, you permanently left your reality behind. It would be a plausible explanation for Mandela effect if we were actually jumping reality bubbles by what we decided to do.
Yeah,
it's a dumb theory, but
the theory that I think is everyone when CERN was starting, everybody was scared they were going to create micro black holes, little black holes, and as soon as they create a black hole, it's going to get bigger, bigger, destroy the Earth, and we'll all be dead. And there's been several scientists that have come out, like whistleblowers, and said, "Yeah, we've created micro black holes like 3 or 4 times, but they implode.
right.
Destroyed.
They're not stable."
But that's the thing; they're not stable. But whenever they did, it knocks us over to another reality. But it's like very close, so that's why we have just little weird things that are
right, like the A and the E and the name of a children's book might change or something like that.
Or the Volkswagen, logo.
There was the film.
Was weird.
Yeah. Oh, that was a weird one too. Yeah.
The little thing. I mean, everyone's like, that's never been there.
Well, did you see the film, The Mandela Effect? Where the whole idea that this guy had in his head was like, if I really am able to see these differences in the world, that if I make the right kind of differences that are computationally complex enough that I can crash the quantum computer that's controlling everything, I can break the simulation.
Really?
It's a clever idea.
And the idea's been around for, remember Sliders?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, from it was the
great
90s?
Show.
Yeah. And it was so basic.
I'm machine just gross. I gotta refresh, man.
Huh? Okay.
I gotta exit out and come back. Hang on tight.
Okay. Yeah, I thought fracking was like super bad, and then I don't know, and it's so bad when you can't trust anyone, anywhere you hear it from. Take care. It's good having you here, Warrior. Which we've been going for an hour. I'm probably gonna wrap stuff up pretty soon after he gets back. There's one weird thing that I can talk about with you guys. Which you want to talk about the weird Trump thing?
Oh yeah, let's do.
Okay, so I'm gonna play this, and this is the assassination attempt, and just watch it, and then we'll watch it again, and I'll talk about it.
Months old, and if you want to really see something that's sad, take a look at what happened.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go.
Yeah. I'm gonna. Now I want you to look behind Trump.
You're talking about the guy with the beard, right?
Dude with
the weird beard
hat.
and glasses.
Black hat, glasses, and this is the first thing I saw. Like, I really do see things differently. The first time I watched it, I was like, that dude, one of these things does not look like the other. He's odd, but he is never scared. There's people screaming. and there's a certain point where everyone's down, and he's just standing completely erect, looking around like. And the only time he digs his pocket, gets his phone, and then sits down, calm as hell. So now watch it and watch that dude.
Months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Everyone's dropping. He's just looking around. Like, not worried about anything. No stress.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move to spare. Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. We ready?
Yeah. He's going out.
Good. Shooters down. Are we good to move? We're good to move. We're clear. Let's move. Let's move. We're clear.
I thought that was odd.
That's pretty weird, dude. That is pretty weird.
That was odd. And then I thought, oh, actually, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I know that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as soon as I saw it. So here, this. I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, C3PO. That's a funny one. So that's me and my buddy Rice. And then this is Rice and that.
Oh, weird. That is so weird.
And
that is
this is on January the 5th, the evening of January 5th, taken in, guess where? Washington, D.C.
That's weird.
Right before that famous day.
That is so weird. Who is he?
He is believed to be JFK Jr. Or this is the thing. He was believed to be Q. People said that he was JFK Jr., but a lot of people back then said that he was that letter, the one that was posting all the crazy, weird stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that's, as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's weird. You know, it was weird that, January 6th thing, he was there. I understand, whatever. But that he was there and then right there. I mean, those seats right behind Trump, those are choice. Those are hard to get. He was
for somebody who is directly in the line of fire, he seems unalarmed.
That's another, the way he was acting, it was just nonchalant as hell. It all just seemed very, very odd. Very, very, very odd.
There's another woman who was blocked off by that particular shot with the bubble of the guy down in the corner who's reacting to it in the video you showed. Where that bubble is, there's a woman who literally had a similar reaction, where all she did was try to get her camera out to take pictures of Trump while he was down. Yeah. And it was almost as if she knew it was coming.
It is very you can't be serious. He was like 12 back then. I mean, thank God none of his family were there. That's another thing. His family's always there. They weren't there. If I don't worry about, him going crazy or any of that, but if someone shot my son because of the crap that the media has been pushing and the us versus them, like because of political power shit that made someone go nuts and shot my kid. Oh man, I'd lose it. But yeah, I just thought it was so weird. When I saw it, I'm like, hey, that looks like that guy. His last name begins with an F. I forget what it is. But I was like, that looks just like him. And then I was like, it's too weird for him to be in those seats right there behind.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, there's so everything's weird now. You don't know who's, because you've got Obama and Hillary and all of the players. Like everyone's they're out for themselves now. There's no cohesive evil anymore.
Yeah, there's no way to ID anybody.
Yeah, it's
really.
very, very odd. But what is very clear, because I mean, there's so many of what we would consider, the players are calling for him to leave and to get down. So whoever is in control is the one who's they're fighting hard. They're like, no, it's here to stay. I mean, dude, it's like,
I love how they're trying to push this argument that you're electing a team like, oh yay, the deep state. We should vote for them.
And that's another thing, dude. Our founding fathers, they're like, here's some rules. Don't break these. You could break the republic. Don't have a party system. Don't have a party system. Can you imagine if it only got down to 2 parties?
Right.
It's a joke. That would. They made it so simple. Don't have a centralized banking system, because that could. Don't do that. It's unbelievable to me how, and it makes me angry. That we did such stupid stuff.
Oh, we'll correct it. We're going to correct it by falling flat on our faces, but we're going to correct it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can avoid total rock bottom. But
I was watching Patrick Bet, David, the valuetainment thing I've told you about, and he was talking about this guy that was talking about these four turns like in an empire. And he said, what according to this prediction, what comes, it's not World War III, that it is, the boogaloo. It is something with internal.
It's a slow decline, right? We're living in it already.
Yeah, and people made the point, we're in a civil war for a long time. You can call it cultural, you can call it, whatever, but it's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, blockchain was invented because of a salvo in this, right?
Yeah, that was part of it. He said that it was the 2008 is when it's like
the last time we had a free market in real estate.
Yeah, and
free-ish market.
I make this point all the
We've never had
time.
a free market anything.
It makes Trump people mad. But you have to be able to take criticism and call things like they are. One of the most socialist things that has ever happened, he did. The airline industry, he completely bailed it out, and they were not even nice about it. And they should have that a free market allows that to fall. And the good airline companies, it's not like it disappears. All the planes don't disappear. All those assets don't, just go poof. Then Southwest, JetBlue, there was highly rated companies that were not going under. They're able to
one regulatory change, and we could all fly private.
It's nice when my rich friends tell me to fly private. During the outbreak, they're like, "Hey, Sean, it's good to see you, man." They're like, "I wasn't going to go on a plane. Like, how do you get around it? Oh, you should fly private. You got to fly private, Sean." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, man." If I was able to fly private, I still wouldn't. It's ridiculously expensive.
There's actually a company out of I forget where they're based out of, but you can actually with this company, I think they put the maximum number of seats you can have on a plane and still classified as private. and it's enough seats that they can afford to sell tickets at like first class airfare prices. And just recently, there were a coalition of airlines trying to regulate, force the FAA to regulate them out of existence because they were being too competitive, right? Like, everybody could fly like that. We would just have to allow planes big enough, and then the market prices would be better than the ones that you get with the regulated air travel.
I don't know. I'm looking forward. It's like again, you know what's coming, and you know it's going to be bad, but I hope that things are going to be better afterwards. And I don't. That's the one thing I don't know if you've. Tucker Carlson said this when he was going off on the journalist, and I've heard a lot of just regular people doing their rants on TikTok and on YouTube. People try to say American is white and racist. And now American just means American.
Always has.
Yeah, it has. But it's been used. It's like, because like the reporter said, you said this racist thing because you said Americans. He goes, yeah, I said Americans. Well, it means white. And he said, no, I mean black Americans. And white Americans and Asian Americans and Mexican Americans, he goes,
these are the same people that say like black kids don't know what a computer is, like they've never heard of one.
Yeah. It's like they can't get they can't get a driver's license. So it's like it's so but people are waking up to that, and that's one of the things that scared the Democrat Party is because they're losing these core people that they were always able to lie to, and people are like, no, if things. I never understood that about like Biden's the perfect example. Is man, government's so screwed up, so messed up. I can fix it. Put me in there. I've been here for 55 years. So I'm technically the one that screwed it up. But dude, if you're like,
he's actually personally responsible for so many of the policies that make this thing screwed up. So many of them. Yeah. He claimed authorship of the Patriot Act.
Really?
Yeah, he said that he worked on writing it after the first World Trade Center bombing.
He said that he said that he was like fought for civil rights and all this stuff in a black church. And he was literally
sad. Actually, it's sad to watch an elder get abused.
And I came to like a realization because there's all these like crazy people who are screaming that they're like, oh, they're mad the guy missed, like, oh, he missed, and it's like gross. That's sick, yeah. And when it comes to like even people like on the far right, like they can say they hate Biden and but you feel sorry for him. It's like this dude's being used. There's people that are just using him for power or to make to sign a piece of paper. It's like my cousin did to my grandfather, and the rest of my family didn't care because they didn't want to deal with him. So, they just pawned him off on her, and she would, it was blatant. Like she bought, this was a long time ago, but she bought like 2 widescreen TVs, and she bought one for him, and then she bought a second one in case he wanted to watch it in her room, and because there's specific rules that she was supposed to follow, and nobody cared. She blew through all his money and then took off, and that's how everyone, even people that are super far right, it's like that's just wrong. Wrong is wrong. Evil's evil. It is the way it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and the problem anymore is that it's hard to tell where it is because it's so everywhere.
And yeah, I am afraid that goes back to just the whole beginning of the show with the Chevron thing. Prices are so much more expensive just because of because of the regulation. I mean, imagine if the guy didn't fight it and he paid the salary for the on the boat. He's
Right.
going to have to charge more for the fish. That's just
Right,
how
which he can't because one market participant doesn't have that much power over price, right? It'd be sort of like trying to sell your bags when nobody else was, right?
Yeah.
You can't make your sale price go high. You have to pay spot.
And I've
and
been
that's how fish is. You pay spot prices.
I've been telling my my nieces and nephews for years because they're like, we got to have this minimum wage, 15. We got to, and it's like, dude, that won't change anything. It'll mess up everything.
Minimum wage laws were literally invented by racists.
They're like,
literally.
No, because then we'll be able. I was like, you'll make more money for a couple months, but then everything goes up. I said that's just how it works. You're going to be poor if this job keeps you in poverty. That job is going to keep you in poverty. Period. That's just how it is.
And for the most part,
people are starting to understand that.
Right, and and the crazy thing to me is that the people don't really know because they try not to tell them. Is that nobody spends, like, you talk about the 1% or the 90% or the 95% or whatever. People don't stay in the same wage bracket forever. It's not like that. You gain experience, you move on, you grow, you get bigger, you do things later that push you in and out of. What most people do throughout their lives is they go up and they go up, and then at some point in time, like 60 to 70% of people are in the top 90%.
No, they don't, and I'm glad you said that, because I said this along at the beginning or towards the beginning of the show, is how radical our life is and our the idea of our country was. And we like you just said, most people it's not like that. I've heard so many, especially British people, they're like, they say it's an invisible class system, but if you're born here, like you don't, and I don't understand it. I'm like, dude, you can go to college and become a doctor. You can
Right.
but they're like, no, man, you don't understand. And I was
like, you're not going to change your class just by wishing it where you are right now, but like you will over the course of your life if you do anything other than stay exactly where you are and learn nothing.
But they're like, no, America is so different. It's like that way of thinking, because it's you think I can better my life, I can bet, and then you can better your kids' lives and your family. Your kids they start out at a better place than you did, so they can go further and they can go further.
Why legal immigrants come here, like that's why you want to be an American. Now, that said, like, our ideal of social mobility is exactly what they're trying to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not that they don't want people to have opportunities to work in a fast food restaurant. Oh, they love that. What they don't want is for people to be able to change their position. This is neo-feudalism. This is the core idea behind the let's reduce the world population and make it a garden for the wealthy. Right? Like they want to end class mobility, and the way that you do that is you ask for equity. You make it so that everybody has to be equally poor.
What was I heard? Was it a quote, or it was people want equity instead of opportunity, and equity, like you said, it brings you down.
Right, the policies you need to make equity destroy the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And then also you can just see everywhere where that's why communism doesn't work. Because
and under old school medieval feudalism, right, there was a lot of equality. Most people had the right to plow the fucking turnips and not learn to read.
But also, those people were respected. It's not like we look at it and it's like, oh, these samurai were, terrible. It's like, no, it's like your place was respected, but you stayed in your place. And that was how it worked. but you
Right.
weren't.
What they don't want is more billionaires. They don't want more millionaires. They don't want anybody coming up anymore because they want to pull the ladder up really badly.
Yeah.
That's what minimum wage laws do. They cut the bottom off the ladder.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we lived in a military area, and the military get what's called BAH and BAQ. BAQ is for food, and BAH is for housing. So, like everyone in the military, your rank, everyone gets the same pay for the rank, no matter what. And then the difference is where you're stationed, where you're at. That BAH and the BAQ could sometimes be more than what your rank pays. If you're in, San Diego, you're getting a buttload of money because you have to get enough to, rent an average house or apartment. So in my area, rent seemed for a 2-bedroom house, 2 to 3, but usually like 2-bedroom house. It was always like whatever the BAH was for an E4, not like a high NCO, not for an officer, but not like a private. And if that, if they got a raise in BAH, for the year, magically the rents seem to go up in the area. So I got it. I understood that's how all regulated, income works.
Right. Well, I mean, Ludwig von Mises himself, right? He said that a war economy is essentially a socialist economy. That we trade a free market system for a militarized socialism when we put ourselves on a war footing as a society. And that's what we've been doing basically to ourselves since the 80s. We've had the opportunity to end war and to end that kind of like basically patronage economy that was built around, pay your friends and make sure to buy people who can pay their friends. Right.
And we have to use the right terms because everyone's like, capitalism's evil. Capitalism does this. I said, no, crony capitalism.
Right. Well, I mean, actually, even more than this, when we use the word capitalism, we accede to the labor theory of value. We buy into Marxism by using the phrase capitalism. It was a term of abuse to describe free markets.
Yeah.
Still is, and still always is, right? Like,
and I feel
what
like
we need is free markets. We don't need capitalism.
I feel like one of those kids that's like, no, communism can work. I'm like, no, it's crony capitalism. No, but it is just free markets. Anarcho-capitalism is like, I think, the greatest thing. If we were evolved as a species enough to not want to hurt each other and steal from each other, then it would be perfect.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, imagine what would happen, right? Like in a world where there's inflation, like there is, because we have this controlled quote capitalist system. Imagine if instead of all of the savings every year that they have to make in order to make the better little supercomputer that goes in your pocket, right? This thing costs the same while getting more capable. It doesn't cost the same in a free market society. It gets cheaper.
Yeah.
Right. and that we've been having them or allowing them to eat those resources for years and years and years, ever since the Fed was created, basically.
Fran, the way that I can get through to people where they understand is if you, first off, you have to learn what money is. And that's a really big deal. But when you tell someone that if you buy, let's say you go in and you buy a loaf of bread and it costs an ounce of gold or $1, you can go in there with a dollar bill and get a loaf of bread at Walmart, or you can go in there and get pay an ounce of gold. And then a year later, you go in there and you can get a loaf of bread for $2 or an ounce of gold. Did the bread actually go up in cost, or did the dollar go down in value? That's when they finally get it. And then you can tell them Henry Ford used to pay his auto workers in gold every month. And
he made sure to pay them enough to buy the cars that they were making.
Yeah, but if you look at how much if the gold today, it's literally like couple $100 more than they made back then.
Well,
They made a couple $100 more back then than they do versus now. And they've made, I mean, it's like a really good job. It's like a high paying job. It's a big number, but literally it's like, 2.5 ounces, 3 ounces of gold a month, which is
right.
what back then.
Back when they passed the Bank Secrecy Act, right? Back when they first had like a reporting threshold on certain transactions that were like greater than 10,000. When they first passed that law in 72, what you could get for $10,000? A new fucking house.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like the inflation that has happened since then has made it so that people can regularly go over that buying the minimum quality used car you can get to not have it be a lemon.
Yeah, that evil dude, Brad Sherman, the congressman from California.
The guy from the porn district.
The dude literally, you can go look up who his biggest donators are, and it's foreign banks, Chinese and Swiss, I think, like.
Oh yeah. Credit Suisse is one of his biggest funders.
One of the biggest ones. But he said this. He's like, $100 bill that used to be a lot of money. You used to be able to, only certain people had $100 bills. Now, it used to be like rich people and drug dealers. That was it. Now everyone has it. Like fast food workers have $100 bills.
But yeah, you got to burn through that shit to buy groceries, right? Like
we need to have a bigger bill for us, for the good people. And then he wanted to make it like $600. Now it's like $600 instead of $5,000 for deposits, or $10,000, whatever it is that the IRS gets notified.
He pushed 600. They were trying to get 60.
Yeah,
they didn't get 60.
But I think that's waking regular people up, to where they're like.
Well, now that Chevron's gone, man, it's gonna be a lot harder for them, right? Redefining these thresholds is going to be a lot more based on the way the law was intended when it was written, as opposed to the way the law is interpreted now. That's to me the most powerful point of Chevron is you have to go back now and be an originalist about your interpretation of these things.
Also, like I think, like we talked about before, I think that the laws need to be now. They don't have to be written ambiguously to give them that power, because the power can't be taken. So
right, and now if they write the laws ambiguously, they're essentially writing non-laws.
Yeah, so they just need to, it needs to be simple. But our government's so screwed up, dude. We can't start on that. There's so many.
No, it's gonna have to. We're gonna have to flush the whole thing.
I've heard people say, "Well, I didn't read it, but you voted on it." Well, yeah, but it was.
That's how they always do it, right? They didn't write it either. The people who wrote it
like 10,000 pages,
or lobbyists, right?
Something like 10,000 pages or 4,000 pages, and you have 48 hours to go over it before you vote on it. But that's something that people are starting to wake up.
Same thing with the Patriot Act, man. They did that thing in like 24 hours.
Well, I told you, I think, and I wish someone would make this law that if there is anything like the Patriot Act or anything that is a temporary thing, that you can, if you vote for this and it's supposed to be temporary, you cannot, it can't be extended or
that needs to exist
or re-vote on it. You can't do that. You can't be in office. So it's like the Patriot Act was huge, man. That was so huge. Yeah. Or like, this is just a temporary thing because of the terrorists.
Right. The airport workers molesting you and making you take your shoes and your belt off. Like that shit was supposed to be temporary.
Just super, super temporary. And now it's not, it hasn't, there's like nothing that they can show. Hey, we stopped this from happening. Hey, we stopped this. It's all been used on us. But the fact that they can just extend it is so wrong. And they have people that they either have to.
And the fact that the extension.
If you believe in it, it's like, we still need this, then you got to step down. You have to step down.
Right. And the fact that we have this extension based paradigm, right? This is not what it was intended to be. It doesn't phase itself out. It it gives them an opportunity to add to it.
Yeah.
Wait, so yeah, no, I think the biggest point about Chevron that could happen right now that nobody's done yet, but could, right? We could see 2018 begin again, right? We could fire up thousands of ICOs. It could be tomorrow, and the SEC would be unable to address it because what they don't want right now is a court precedent saying that your interpretation of the 1933 and 34 acts is invalid.
Well, it is nice to hear government people saying the things that we were saying. There's a brain drain. We've been the ones doing the brain drain on all these crap countries, getting the smart people here to create. And now we're the ones losing because we're stifling innovation. We're stifling people building stuff.
Dude, Rivet is hanging out still afloat because we have some incredible technology that's cheap to run. And we were prescient, I think, by accident when we focused on making it cheap enough to run such that we could scale it up globally, and the prices would be like what you get when you sign up for a cell phone plan, right? Like there's no minute restrictions on it. There's no RPC request limit restrictions on Rivet. And if you spend as much as you need, even if you run billions of requests, you're going to pay like less than $1,000 a month. And that's the only reason we're still alive. If we hadn't done that, we'd be waiting around for the market boom to hit, for the big growth, for mass adoption.
Yeah, we're trying to time this. We're trying to time this for our project. Like,
we are still waiting on mass adoption, and it hasn't happened because of what's been done.
Yeah.
2018 should have been the beginning of mass adoption.
Yeah, it should have. It should have, and we've Joe's been right on a lot of this. You can't compromise with evil. As I get older, tomorrow's my birthday, and I've just come to where it's like I can see things. Hey, it's either good or it's evil, man.
And same with socialism and capitalism. To bring back, I love to bring up Ludwig von Mises because he was a genius ahead of his time. But like one of the most important things to remember about capitalism versus socialism, about free markets versus socialism, there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
The beginning of socialism might be one or two things, but it's not a fallacy to argue slippery slope. It begins to eat the whole of your society. And that's what we've seen, right? Like ever since we decided to introduce protections against market failures, we've introduced all of that. And until we get rid of it, we will have nothing but an ongoing slide into socialism that will continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the same with tyranny. If you don't hold everyone accountable to the same level, then it's if it's not for everybody, then it's for nobody. All right, well, let's wrap things up. It's been an hour and a half, so it's been hanging out.
Gotta probably roll. So good timing. And I do want to say, I know that Elon beat me to the punch here, and I tried to respond on X. Like, I don't know about you guys, but if you were on the fence before, like myself, my company, my team, we endorse Trump. And that's the pragmatic reality of what's necessary right now, because not just because if we don't, we let the people who tried to kill him today win, or kill him a few days ago win, but because this Schedule F executive order needs to go back into place. It's already on his platform to put it back into place. We get that back, we shut down all of the rest of the deep state. It goes away. That's what they're afraid of.
It's so weird that we can, like, regular people admit there is a deep state. It's not a crazy fringe, theory. It's like, oh yeah, they're running stuff. And what is it? The whole reason that the client list hasn't come out is because then they lose the power. You
Yeah.
know, if we know, then it's all for naught. You know,
Yep.
which is
Power only works in the shadows, man. You don't use power, you hold it.
wish I had the quote from JFK to go. You know, all right, y'all take
Yeah.
care. It was good hanging out with you.
Good to see you, Sean, man. Happy birthday.
Thanks, I appreciate it. We'll go out with this as usual. I love this show.
I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered.